What's up guys, it is Grathskull, and for this video we are starting a new little series all about individual case in-depth analysis, I guess. We are looking at each individual unretired case currently, and we're going to do an in-depth analysis and seeing if it's worth holding and which one will most likely make you the best bang for your buck in the long run. So we'll be looking again at the central features that we talked about earlier in other videos, which I will go over once again, which would be: is there a unique knife in this case? How well are the reds performing? Is there a skin for is there a well-performing skin in this case for a gun that does not have usually a nice skin for it? And lastly, we'll be looking at how many of the guns in the case also are guns that are heavily used in CSGO. So again, F4A1S, Glocks, USPs, AKs, Ops, etc. So those would be the main things we're looking at, but I'll look at the top tier skins as well in the case usually. If I don't mention something, I usually just didn't think it was very important in general, but feel free to mention in the comments if you want me to talk about it or mention it. I will obviously just reply to you or make a video about it if it's really that necessary. So for the first set, we are going to look at Breakout. So to start, the Breakout case is a unique situation in the CSGO market. So when we look at the Breakout case, a very large thing we have to look at is the fact that there's about 1.3 million of them in the CSGO market. What does that mean? That means we have to wait longer for the price to go back up because it has to work through a lot of quantity for it to even inch up a bit, because there's about 800,000, I believe, of cases from about 4 cents to 7 cents. So that's a lot of cases to go through. So that's obviously going to take a lot longer to get through. So we'll move on to features now, and the first feature we're going to look at are knives. Does the Breakout case have a unique knife? Yes, it has the butterfly knife. Does this high quantity of cases have an effect on that? Yes, in some ways, yeah. Because there's more people who open that case, meaning that knife logically would be more quantitative. But the amount more of knives being open, is it a lot? No, it really shouldn't do too much to the market price, because there's not a lot of knives to be open to begin with. So it shouldn't impact it too much. The factor that there is a unique knife in the case is far better than the few more knives that have been opened in the market. But I thought it would be worth mentioning. For the next factor I wanted to look at, it was about how well its reds are performing. So if we go to a website such as CSGO Stash, we see its two reds are the P90 Asimov and the M4A1S Cyrex. So what we need to look at here is how well does it perform versus other M4A1Ss or P90s that exist already. So on CSGO Stash, if we looked at it, the P90 Asimov compares around, I'd say it's in the top 3 for P90s. It's not nearly as valuable as the Emerald Dragon, but the Emerald Dragon's from a far older case. And the Death by Kitty is from the original esports case, which is far older. And the P90 Asimov, the factory new version of it, sits around $23. That's pretty good considering the case still isn't retired. And again, the P90 doesn't get that many great skins, and I would say the P90 Asimov is maybe the nicest or in top 2 for nicer skins. But it definitely, as of recently, it's definitely the best P90 skin you can get right now. So for a red, I would say it's pretty good, because P90s don't even get that many nice skins, but for a P90 skin, definitely it's good. As for the M4A1S, when having a comparison for it, it's kind of difficult case-wise, because there's only other one red like it, and that's the M4A1S Hyper Beast. Hyper Beast outperforms that thing, like the Cyrex, by a mile. Like, its starter prices differ. When it started, when it was released, their starting prices differed about $100. So you get a general idea. And I'm talking about when they started their factory new prices when they came out. So I think the first one got bought for like $375 if it was a Hyper Beast. Cyrex was around $150, but the Hyper Beast lowered really quickly down to around $250, and then Cyrex stayed at around $140, $150 for the first couple. And then again, they both do the whole like progressive decline. But I will say the Cyrex, I would say its value is mostly created due to the fact that it's a red. If you compare it to things like the Atomic Alloy and yeah, I would mainly just say the atomic alloy, because there really isn't that much comparison to be able to make. If you compare it with something like atomic alloy, if you made the atomic alloy a red, which I think would be crazy, but if it was a red, how much better its value would have been. And I think if the atomic alloy was a red and put against the Cyrex, I think they would probably be close in value. A lot of people use the atomic alloy. They all like the atomic alloy. It's a pink, so its quantity is going to be higher in the market, so its price is logically going to be lower. So as for reds, I'd say it does have that benefit of the P90 not getting that many nice skins usually. And it is an Asimov skin also, which is something to take in. So I think it's overall a good skin for P90. As for the M4A1S skin, Cyrex, it's popular. I'll agree with that. But as for performance-wise, I don't think it's done amazing. But considering the case is at about 1.3 million units and it's still holding strong at factory new for about $50, it's still pretty good. I don't think it's awful. It's still good. And it's the second red M4A1S. It's not the highest performing one by far, but there's collections in other cases that have better ones. But overall, Cyrex, not awful. So for this final factor, we look at what weapons are in the case, and we're not talking the skins, we're talking about the weapons in general. So when we look at our reds, we look at two highly used weapons in the meta. So we have the P90 and the M4A1S, and I would say both of those weapons, highly used, popularized weapons, so that'd be 2 out of 13 of the weapons in the case are highly used in the meta. As for the pinks, you have the Desert Eagle 5.7 and Glock 18. Nice thing about in CSGO, a lot of the pistols are used, like every single pistol. So they end up being valued pretty well. So the Desert Eagle 5.7, Glock 18 all fall into this category of highly used weapons. So that's 5 out of 13. Looking into purples, we only have about 2 that are highly used. The PP Bison and the Nova, I wouldn't count as being used very often, so their prices are generally lower. But as for the weapons that are being used, you have a CZ75 skin and a P250 skin, which again, pistols that everyone uses, or sort of uses. CZ, some people switch out for a Tech 9 or a 5.7. So overall, they're still used skins, so we're sitting at about 7 out of 13 skins right now that are highly used in this case. And for the blues in Breakout, it's kind of difficult. I would say a P2000 is genuinely used by some people, not as much as I think as a USP, but I will still say it's fairly used, so I would call that 8 out of 13. And then there was some maybes. The MP7 and an UMP, due to the SMG meta right now, I would say they're sometimes used. To be safe, we'll say 8 out of 13, but I would say possibly 10 out of 13, but don't count me on that because I don't know how well they will perform long run, but they're still used guns and depends on the meta in the future as well. Just a side note I want to make is that the Glock 18 Water Elemental. Now, Glocks have a problem where they don't get very nice skins every so often, and we've talked about this before in other videos, but their best skin is a Glock 18 Fade, and that skin is extremely expensive, and it's probably one of the only few nice skins for this gun. Now, the Water Elemental got introduced, and it's probably the only red, I think, for this weapon, but also the best skin for it, I think, visually. And it proves in its price point, even as a pink, and this late into its retirement point, or it isn't retired yet even, its factory new version of it still gets $10 for it. And that's really good for a gun at this point. So that'd just be the final point I want to make, that is a crucial thing to look at, is that pink in that case is doing very well. Super duper side note I want to make is that the 5 rarest guns in this case, so the 2 reds and the 3 pinks, are all highly used weapons. And so what does that mean? It means that these guns fall into the category of higher amounts of players, meaning there's more players that are possibly going to demand this weapon in the future, depending on the skin quality. So, for example, Glock 18, everyone uses a Glock 18, so that means there's more people going to want it to be demanding this Glock 18 skin, which strains supply, which causes the price to rise. So, what will come from this is that if we can tell which of these skins will do decently well skin-wise, the only one that I'd say that won't do well is the 5.7 Foul Play, because I think it's a shitty skin. It does not look very good. As well, you can see by its market performance that from the gates it hasn't done very well if you just look it up on the Steam market. As for the other ones, Desert Eagle and the Glock 18 will do perfectly fine. Glock 18 will do really well, I think, in the long run. And the P90 Asimov and M4A1S Cyrix will do perfectly fine in the long run. So, with that, I would like to just say, I hope you all have a wonderful day. And this is the conclusion to the Breakout case. And I will talk to you all later. And if you have any comments, suggestions, or anything you just want me to answer, just post them in the comments and I will happily do so. I'll talk to you all later. Peace.